Baltimore and W After Week. I try to bring the authors in. This is one of my favorite guys out of New York. You know him for all those years on HBO and New York Daily News. He has a current book out on the Dallas Cowboys. Comes out this week. It's called How About Them Cowboys? I tell you what, Gary Myers, I can't believe Jimmy Johnson didn't copyright that at some point, right? Because we're all remembering that from almost 3 decades ago now. But your book is more like where it is right now and where the legend of all this is. And all you need to do is go down to Dallas and sit inside that stadium, which I did for you too last year and for Super Bowls, to know that the Cowboys are built a little different. And you're not the first one to go in there and try to peel back that onion.
Yeah, that's true. I think I kind of approach it from a different perspective than some other books on the Cowboys, and I don't think there's been a book written on the Cowboys in over 10 years. So I think there was a lot of information out there that I was able to gather. Nestor, having really good access to Jerry Jones during this. I got to know him when I worked in Dallas from 81 to 89. I left there about 4 months after he got there, but I maintained a good relationship with him. So I had 5 hours of interviews with Jerry, and then I also sat with Steven, Charlotte, and Jerry Jr., his kids, who really help him run the team on a day-to-day basis. So I think that Jerry was pretty forthcoming in the book, and we discussed a lot of things. And this book covers the 3 eras of the Cowboys: the Landry era, the Jimmy and Jerry era, and the Jerry without Jimmy era, as I call it.
Well, I saw Aikman had some thoughts over the weekend that, what if it had stayed together? Would it have been Brady and Belichick? And, that's really a tender period because, that was the period where I got on the radio, those first couple of years where they were just such a dominating team at that point. But the breakup has led to Jerry now meandering 25 years looking for another ring. And, I think it's fueled him. And I think Jimmy's having a good time down in Isla Mirada, with his sports bar down there that I sat at down in Key Largo and doing his television thing. Jerry's still sort of seeking this thing, right?
Jerry's sort of what? I'm sorry, say it again?
Is still seeking this championship that eludes him a quarter of a century later.
I think... let's put it this way, Nestor. Jerry's good at one thing that we know of for sure.
Making money.
And that's making money. He also thinks he's a very good football man. And I think that's been his failure since Jimmy left, was that he just hasn't replaced him in the hierarchy with a really good football guy. I don't care that Jerry wants to keep the title of general manager. And he had that title when Johnson was there. But we all know that Johnson was the one that was calling the shots. He made the Herschel Walker trade. He's the one that maneuvered in the draft. Once Jimmy left, Jerry's football responsibilities increased. And where he's terrific at making money, he's not so terrific at building a football team. And I think the proof is simple that 1995 was the last time they made the Super Bowl. Barry Switzer was the coach. He got there with Jimmy Johnson's players. And once free agency picked apart the Cowboys and they needed a smart person to replenish the supply of talent, they didn't have anybody. And the results are pretty clear.
Gary Myers is our guest. The book is How About Them Cowboys? Inside the Huddle with the stars and legends of America's team. The Jerry thing's fascinating for me in the modern era as a general manager, and Jason Garrett sort of being the consigliere. And at one point, Steve Bisciotti came about this close to hiring Jason Garrett. Jason Garrett's wife was looking at houses here, and John Harbaugh never would have been had Jerry not pulled Garrett back during the Wade Phillips era. And, that changed the complexion of our franchise here. But, there's been, a thing in the modern era where the politics has gotten involved in this. Jerry's excess as an owner and as sort of the puppet master for the league and for Goodell and moving franchises. Those two teams are in L.A. get credited with Jerry being a big part of that. I found that interesting as I was going through Cleveland security this weekend and wondering why Art Modell's not in the Hall of Fame for moving a franchise, and Jerry's moved too, without literally, put the cherry on the top on that. But then then last year, it feels like maybe Jerry's time as the patriarch of the league is moving on, that things are going to happen within the framework of the league that Jerry's not going to like, and Jerry, like, threatening to sue the league. And stuff. I mean, last year was a crazy year for Jerry Jones and for the league, I think.
No question about it. And, the fact that he got into the Hall of Fame last year, I think enabled him somewhat, that it empowered him, maybe is a better word, to challenge Goodell on so many issues, because no doubt he wanted to be in the Hall of Fame, and maybe if he hadn't yet been selected, he would not have challenged Goodell on so many issues, because he wanted to keep his reputation intact as a real strong league guy, and so he might have backed off. The fact that he was selected for the Hall of Fame, and then the Zeke Elliott situation happened where he insists that Goodell had told him that he was not going to suspend Elliott, and then months later suspended him for 6 games. Jerry was infuriated, and that led to the threats about suing the league, Jerry challenging on Goodell's contract and the structure of it. He never tried to boot him out of office, but he definitely wanted to restructure how his incentives were worded in his contract, and he won on that point. And as far as Jerry's influence in the league, I know that his 2017 stance on a lot of issues, including the national anthem issue, did not sit well in some areas of the league, and whether that impacts Jerry's influence going forward, I think we're going to have to see when the next major issue comes up.
Well, the whole image of him down on the knee with the team and that image is burnished in my mind as far as how he's dealt with lots of issues about bringing criminal players in and running Maverick 25 years ago with Pepsi and Coke deals and getting the stadium built. I mean, Jerry's done a lot of good, but I think maybe the ideology's sort of worn out at this point. And I find it fascinating because you see me at all these owners' meetings and whatnot as to how petty it really gets when the door gets closed, when you lock alpha billionaires into a room who are politically not really connected, and Roger's probably far left of many of the guys in the room that he has to serve and work for, and where that sits the league moving forward, because I think that's going to be the biggest issue. I mean, nothing rocked the league like politics last year, and I think moving forward in a league that's minority-led on the field, but certainly right-driven in the ownership side, things are going to change, and Jerry's reputation has taken a hit with me and with his pizza delivery buddy and, all of that stuff that went on last year that I feel differently about just making money as, then there's the whole football side of whether they're going to win or not. But I think Jerry is closer to the end than the beginning of his ownership, right? And I don't know what's the succession plan. Who's going to be the next big guy there? His boys will take over, I guess, because they're groomed to do that. But where's the ideology for the Dallas Cowboys moving forward?
I mean, that's a great question, and he's already arranged for each of his 3 children, Stephen, who's very involved in the football part of it, Charlotte, who's the chief brand officer and is probably the most powerful woman in the league, and then Jerry Jr., who is probably the least known of the 3 kids, but was very involved in the Star, which is a new training facility, and AT&T Stadium, putting what's what I'm looking for? Just in the construction of the Star and the stadium, putting the finishing touches. A lot of the stuff that's in the stadium where the players walk through that gauntlet.
I sat down there for the Super Bowl, a number of years ago when the stadium was built. I sat down in that area for U2 last year. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's an incredible thing, and I think any fan anywhere in the league, maybe this side of Minnesota or Atlanta, where they've had similar theatrics, if you're a Buccaneers fan and you go there, it's nothing like the experience that you have in your stadium in Cincinnati or Cleveland or Baltimore, and Jerry looked to do that, and I think it's all kind of incredible to some degree, but it's also excessive, and I understand the facilities, incredible, right? Like, the access that fans have to go into the war room and stuff, just stuff that makes money that no one else in the league would sanction or want to be a part of, right?
Right, and Jerry's in the Hall of Fame not because of the Cowboys winning 3 Super Bowls in his first 7 years of ownership. It's because of the way he changed the way the NFL did business. And you alluded to it earlier, Nestor, in 1995 when he made the deals with Nike and I think it was Pepsi, that showed the owners that we have our league deals that we all signed off on, but that doesn't mean we can't market our teams individually. And Jerry did that with Texas Stadium, and he does it with the new stadium now. And it opened the door for these millionaires to become multi-billionaires, and that's why he's in the Hall of Fame. As far as the Star facility, I mean, I've been out there and in talking to Jerry Jr. about how they've learned how to monetize it, because Jerry told his kids, okay, you can make this pretty lavish, but you better find a way to get a return on investment. And they have sold a sponsorship to their war room such that contests are held that allow fans to hold their fantasy draft in the Cowboys war room in August. And I don't care if it's 4:00 in the morning in the middle of the dead of winter or whatever, but can you ever imagine Bill Belichick letting fans in his war room? That stuff is just not going to happen. And Jerry just lets them in there. And, they spent a lot of money putting that room together, and he's looking to get money out of it. Same thing with the team meeting room, which is, it's like a theater. I mean, it's like a state-of-the-art theater. And the way they get money out of that is they allow corporations to hold the retreats there. And
they could screen North Dallas 40 in there. We could all have a good time, right?
Yeah, right. And, the city of Frisco went in partnership with them and gave them 91 acres of land and $90 million. And the only stipulation was to develop an indoor football stadium that could be used by all the high schools in the area. So the Cowboys actually wound up putting about $90 million of their own money into that stadium. And now they're developing those 91 acres, and there's stores and restaurants and all kinds of stuff around there. It's like a shopping mall, an outdoor shopping mall. And I'm sure in time, once the thing is developed, it's going to turn into a cash cow for him. There's also a medical facility there. I mean, when they were at Valley Ranch, their old training facility, the Cowboys bought an MRI machine. And just for the convenience of having it on their property, but it wasn't very cost efficient because those things are pretty expensive. And obviously you get a lot of use out of it during the football season. But they cut a deal with some of the doctors in the area to allow them to have their patients come over and use the Cowboys MRI machine. And obviously they were charging them for it. But, the hook was, hey, you can get an MRI in the same machine where Tony Romo's broken collarbone was diagnosed.
Right.
And then you can go home and tell your friends about it.
Yeah, I mean, that's where we are, man. And that sells, right? Especially sells in Dallas and the shine that comes with the Star. And, Jerry didn't invent the Star. He just polished it up. I mean, I remember the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders in the 70s and, the hole in the roof so God could watch his team play. And, all of that lure that went into Roger Staubach back in the day, Jerry shined that up. And you're writing books about it. Gary Myers is here. You can, of course, find him out on Twitter at Gary Myers NY. He's up in New York covering sports, but he's all over the National Football League. The book is How About Them Cowboys? Inside the Huddle with the Stars and Legends of America's Team. All of our broadcasting here brought to you by our friends at the Modell Lyric. Check out the website. Big shows coming down the line. Kansas coming next month, as well as John Cougar Mellencamp. He probably hates it when I call him Cougar, but that's okay. I still remember the American Fool album. There's always magic at the Modell Lyric, as well as our friends at Sporticulture. Flowers all around me in the studio. They're all brought to you by Sporticulture. You can ship those flowers anywhere in the league, and if you're a Cowboys fan, that works as well. It's Sporticulture, sporticulture.com. Grown here and shipped everywhere, but Maryland grown in the Old Bay soil here. Also, our friends at the Lee Tessier team, Baltimore's premier realty team, and the folks I trust with my real estate transactions with over 50 years of experience helping local buyers and sellers like you and me They get the job done. See him at leetessier.com. Gary Myers is our guest. You can find him out on Twitter if you're a Cowboys fan or foe. If you hate the Cowboys, why is this book interesting, Gary? Because I'm not necessarily a Cowboy hater or lover. You know me, I'm a Raven fan, but the other 31 teams I don't have a whole lot of use for during the season anyway, as any good fan would. But I'm always intrigued by the Cowboys because I'm in the Ravens facility twice a week, and I know the closeness of Bisciotti with Jerry. They were very closely aligned, and I think Steve looked up to Jerry when he got into the league about ways to make money. And the Ravens have just redone their facility. That's made it more of a high-end fan experience where hopefully at some point everyone who had a PSL will have a chance to come out and have a special day up close, backstage with the Ravens. And no one has used their website better, and I would give Michelle Andres credit for this and everybody out in Owings Mills. I mean, I have on all of their insiders that these teams have taken their own PR machines in HD inside and brought the world of inside to outside, that folks do want to come out to Owings Mills and see the facility, and it's very, very nice, but I'm sure it's shaped on what Jerry has built in Frisco.
And the Ravens facility isn't even that old that they had to redo it. I wasn't aware of that. I was there a couple of years ago, and I thought it was beautiful.
Oh, you should come back. It's been completely ripped apart, doubled in size, better fields, parking for fans, because Bisciotti pulled training camp from Westminster, which really pissed people off, but they went out and won the Super Bowl 5 months later, right? So yeah, it was the summer that everyone had a lot of angst about that. That was sort of the pre-knee angst, which was, I like taking my kids out to Westminster where Johnny U was and, you know, all of that. And Harbaugh, and like the organization had a hard time because moving all of the equipment, as you know, and putting 350-pound guys in bunk beds, you know, at the Best Western wasn't the way that John wanted to run camp. And it created a huge stir here. Now the Ravens have installed this thing where they're going to be able to make money off of this with their sponsors. I see them do it every day. But again, the Cowboys have set the standard as to what that even – they've got the blueprint for any team. And, you know, all these years later, there's Mike Browns that just want to win football games, right? Like, to some degree, that aren't as interested in the business side or that part of it as much as I just want to win, right?
Yeah, I think the trend in the NFL is that to have training camp at home now, because so many of these teams have relatively new facilities, and it is expensive, like you said, to take a team to training camp, and the accommodations aren't as good as they are at home. But the interesting thing about this is as the trend has been that way, Jerry has training camp in Oxnard. He takes his team to California because it's much too hot to practice outdoors in Dallas in the middle of the summer. I mean, they did it in the past in Austin, and it was a struggle.
Well, he considers it like a Beatles tour in California, right? Everybody gets their sunglasses out, right?
Yeah, they have an indoor facility. And, you know, that stadium I mentioned, that they could have training camp at their own facility. But they choose to take it on the road. The weather in Southern California is very good to get the football work in. But I haven't been to their camp in a number of years, but I'm sure he's found ways, you know, to make some money off of it, but probably not as much as if he held camp in Frisco and was able to sell a lot of sponsorships to it for companies that are in the area. I don't know how many teams are going to take the model that Jerry has put forth now with the Star and, like we talked about, find a way to make money out of every corner of the building. A lot of teams aren't going to want to feel that they're very protective of their turf, and I'm not sure that they want, you know, basically an interactive facility where fans are able to come through it all the time. But you know, Jerry runs tours of the stadium, he runs tours of the Star, and it's just a different way of doing business.
I love how you call it the Star. That's what they call it, right? That's the facility's called the Star.
That is the name of it. Yeah, I'm not
You didn't coin that. You didn't come up with that.
No. It's called The Star.
Gary Myers is here. How about them Cowboys is the book. So the book, like my dear friend Dave Muir and my dearly departed friend Saul, who loved the Dallas Cowboys as well. They would have. I have dear friends that would have loved this book because this isn't the here and now. It's how we got to the here and now, right? Like this is sort of a quarter of a century or more of history of the Cowboys, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of history in there that explains how this team became embraced by not only the fans in Dallas and in Texas, but around the country. And it's probably a cliche, but you either love them or hate them. I don't really think there's any middle ground. That the emotions are strong both ways, and it's not just people loving them in Dallas. There's a huge Dallas Cowboys fan club in New York City. And I'm going to be doing a book signing there on a football Sunday where they expect hundreds of people to show up because it's the Cowboys Watch Party Bar that draws a big crowd on game day. Hopefully it'll be a little bit bigger.
Well, I hope you're doing it soon. I mean, I hope you're not doing it the week they're 4-9.
Yeah, well.
Makes a perfect Christmas gift to say how great the Cowboys used to be. How about that?
Yeah. It's interesting because the way they lost on Sunday night last week with Garrett decision in overtime, I think it's brought, even though they're only 2-3, I think kind of brought them into the conversation on a national basis. Nestor, I know we're taping this, right?
Yeah. We can roll.
I'm beeping.
Yep.
Can I just grab this radio?
Go grab it, buddy. You got it, buddy. All right, there he goes, Gary Myers. New York, and he is the former Daily News, and you can find him anytime. He used to be on HBO and Dallas Morning News. He's Gary Myers, NY, out on Twitter. We'll cut that short. You can find me out on the buy at Toyota.com Audio Vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn radio app. We do come in crystal clear from anywhere in the world. Also, our morning newspaper ships digitally to your email inbox each and every morning at 7 a.m. It's all brought to you by our friends at Planet Fitness at PlanetFitness.com, where it's still $10 a month to get in the best shape of your life. Please check out the John W. Brick Foundation 5K run this week. It's being held up in Timonium. Go to jwb5k.com. Learn more about what you can do to help with mental health awareness, funding, and education and research as well. Also, our friends at the Maryland Jockey Club. Next week, the Maryland Million's being held on Saturday the 20th. We hope to get everybody down to Laurel for that. They expect a nice crowd there. The sports bar is beautiful. I've been talking about it. If you haven't been to Laurel, it's a great chance for you to get down there. Check it out. We got baseball. We got the races. Laurel, Maryland Million on the 20th. Get on down there and check it out. If you haven't been lately, you haven't been at all. Last but never least, Star Tech Service. All brought to you by our friends at Coons Ford on Security Boulevard and Dennis Colatzos. He will be here on Thursday. We're still licking our wounds from losing in Cleveland. We really lose in Cleveland? We lost in Cleveland. But we're not going to lose in Nashville for my 50th birthday. So I'll be joining Dennis before the Steely Dan concert. How about that? 3 to 5 on Thursday. It is the SSV on WNST. And, of course, you can find Dennis out at Coons Ford of Security Boulevard as well as on Thursdays here and our tech service in your pocket. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live on our Facebook as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.